Welcome to the Dream 100 Show, the epicenter of influence, collaboration, and exponential growth. You're about to discover the power of relationships. Dream 100 relationships. And you're one relationship away from a totally different business and life. This is your host, Michael Tasner.
What is your most important number? In today's episode of the Dream 100 Show, I wanted to talk through a recent book that I listened to and share how it's shaping a lot of the changes that I'm making and all the positive things that are happening from it. Every now and then I bring you a book recommendation, but it's not that often that I do. While I read at least, my minimum target is 4 business books a month. I typically read closer to 6 or even 8. A lot of them have nuggets and they have an action step and something that I can take away. But there's only been a handful that I gift. Anytime that I find a book that I want to gift and give away, it's a winner. For example, all the different EOS books I love to gift and give away. Scaling Up by Vern Harnish is another one of those. My book, The Dream 100, I give away, obviously, hundreds, if not thousands of copies. Guerrilla Marketing. When I used to work at that company, I have hundreds of copies that I give away of that. And even though the book's 15, 20 years old, everything still applies. And a few others, Who Not How, 10X is Easier Than 2X, just to name a few. But I recently went through this book, The Great Game of Business. And I wanted to share some takeaways, but more so some action steps for you. What can you actually start to implement to better understand your numbers? But more so, the premise of this book isn't just for you. The premise of this book is getting your team, your vendors, getting all these people aligned so that they want to help you. How do you get to where your team is rowing in the same direction and going out of their way to make sure that that direction stays on course, improves, changes, depending on how that metric is showing? So let's talk through the one number first, and then I'm going to go through the rest of it. So the point of one number is to just simplify. How do we simplify everything that's going on to where if you were to only look at one number every single day, you could get a pulse on how your business is going? Landscaping, what would you want to look at there? I would want to know if I'm doing weekly landscaping, probably the main number for me would be monthly reoccurring revenue. That number tells me, can I meet all my obligations? That's going to tell me cash. It's going to tell me how many active clients we have so that I can not have to, if I didn't want to look at the marketing or anything else, I could size up and see, well, yeah, we've got 100 lawns that we're doing every week. And then you looking at it, great. Tomorrow it says 104 and then 108. So great, I can see it growing if you're only looking at that number. You could argue it could be the sales number, but the downside of a sales number is that, well, what if your sales is, let's say, $500,000 a year, and then you get a big job for $50,000, and then all of a sudden that number jumps up. You're like, oh my God, I'm rich and everything is, but in reality, it was just a one little bump. If I go back and I simplify further, to me, it's, well, if I'm doing the grass cutting as well, you could be tracking how many technicians you have if you're a plumbing and HVAC company, number of calls that are coming in. Could be the service contracts, revenue per truck, revenue per technician. Like there's a lot of numbers for you to track, but what I'm looking for you to do first is to pick one. You're an e-commerce business. Is it conversion? I could argue it's not. And I had a very, very interesting conversation around this exact topic. We were looking at like a landing page with content and saying, all right, well, this page is converting at 3% and that one's converting at 9%. Okay? The obvious answer would be, well, do whatever the 9% conversion is doing. But if you didn't have all the information, that would be the obvious choice. But what if I were to tell you that landing page that's doing 3%, the average order value is $180, the one on the 7% or 9%, whatever I said, the average order value is $60. So when you start to look at the conversion and the numbers and things shake out, well, that one's actually better, the 3%. So you've got to make sure that whatever number you're picking, it can tell you the entire story if you only look at one number. And you can start to trend line that, but know that that one number can affect a whole bunch of different areas. At my business, I look at monthly reoccurring revenue. That's the number one metric. It's telling me, are we gaining clients or losing clients? Yeah, I can look at net profit and all these other numbers. Again, we're going to talk about that in a minute. But the one number, if I were to only look at it every day, would be monthly reoccurring revenue. What is our current MRR? Now, when you have that number identified, the most important piece, according to the Great Game of Business, is to actually share it. Start to share this with everyone at your team and show them how they can positively impact that number. So if I'm sharing my monthly reoccurring revenue, my account managers know that if they were to upsell a client, that can contribute. My salespeople obviously know, the corporate marketing people know, the people that are helping write content for corporate marketing, like everything ties in. And they can see where they fit in on the wheel. They can see how they're contributing to that one number. And that is the most important piece. How do they fit in? When someone can see where they fit in the pyramid and how they can help, they now start to feel like they belong to something, and they definitely do. The icing on the cake is that I want you to start to look at rewards. So I'm going to use random numbers. If my monthly recurring revenue is $100,000 a month, and I want to get to 130 or 150, and I share this every single day with the team, but I tell them, if we hit 150 by this date, here's what happens. You're going to get a pizza party, you're going to get a bonus, and you're going to get a whatever, something else. And then they can also see where they fit into the picture, how they can help impact that number. They're going to be a lot more bought in. And as you're sharing the score, that's the whole piece around gamify this, they can see the score every day. Are we winning or losing? Are we moving towards the goal? Yes or no? Now, the other piece to this equation is to consider sharing everything from a financial standpoint. And this is one that has taken me a long time to come to terms with. I never wanted to do that, or if I would share things, I would cherry pick what I'm sharing. Sales numbers, new clients, I wouldn't want to talk about churn, or I wouldn't want to talk about, well, the net number, I wouldn't want to talk about my salary, for example, or like if there were some months I couldn't take a salary, I'm like, well, then it's going to be embarrassing for me. I kept worrying about how they would think. But the Great Game of Business says to do the opposite. It says to openly share all the numbers, all of them, with a asterisk that you teach them how to read what they're looking for or what they're looking at. It was interesting because I would share sales numbers like, hey, we did whatever, $100,000 last month. And then everyone assumes, oh my God, Michael's rich, he's got $100,000 he just made. But in reality, you might have $60,000 in payroll, $25,000 in software tools and marketing expense, some other professional fees. You take a small salary, pay taxes, and then after taxes maybe is $2,000. But if I only were to disclose the $100,000 number, for example, they start to run their minds wild. Well, he's got all this money. In sharing more of the metrics and all the metrics, they can start to actually see, and more importantly, they can start to help you. And this is where things have taken a really fun tone. As I've been sharing metrics, people have started telling me about software tool where, hey, we don't need these 3 tools here. This is a redundancy here. Here's a potential honeypot that we should consider going into. Have we thought about doing a reactivation campaign for this? We haven't sold it in a while and it's on the back burner, but I think we could do this. When they start to see all the numbers, so you start and you share that main number that if they were only looking at that, that gives you a pulse. They see how they fit in. But as you then start to share the revenue and expenses, and they again can see where they fit in, and you offer collectively for them to start bringing ideas and thoughts and options, things started to change for me. And I was always worried about, well, someone's going to steal all the numbers, they're going to share everything. That never happened. If you can't trust your team, then you really don't have team. Like that makes it a little bit tough of a story. So how can you start to put this into practice? Like, what do you What do you do? How do you sort it out? So, step one is to identify if you, as the owner, only look at one number every day till the cows come home. What is that number? One number. Step two is that within a week, I want you to start sharing that number every single day in a place where everyone can see it. Step three is I want you to decide what award, what reward are people going to get. If you haven't noticed, the economy right now is not in an amazing spot. Gas, as I'm shooting this live, all-time high, $5 plus a gallon. Things are not cheap. So people right now, the most important thing to them is not giving them some praise, having a fun place to work. It's all relevant, but it's pay. So when you're sharing this number, what are you going to do if and when you hit that target? And how, again, can they contribute? I want them to see on the org chart and how they play into that number. And then from there, I want you to start getting your books together to where you could share things unedited, unfiltered. And that is the secret sauce. If you start hiding things, editing things, normalizing, you need to be able to show the true books. And you're not going to send everyone a copy. You're going to have them on a meeting and you can be reviewing this with them live. But also giving them some knowledge so that they understand, here are a couple things they're going to look at on the profit and loss statement. What does this look like? Now, if your numbers aren't great, you might say, well, my gosh, are people now going to start jumping ship? It could happen. Or you're laying down the line. You're literally being, there's like a phrase, I think it was a book like called Getting Naked, where you're basically sharing everything. And the people that really want to be there and help you, those are the ones that are going to be like, okay, this is where we are. Let's dig in. Yeah, he or she, they're not doing great right now. Michael isn't getting a salary in 6 months, but we're all getting paid. So what can we do to help him? Because it's all going to help us. And when they can see that, when they can spot through the BS, know that you're being authentic and genuine, magical things start to happen. Read or listen to The Great Game of Business. And start to look at the very least, starting to share some of these numbers with your company. And then driving those numbers up of where do you want to see them with some bonuses and some incentives to hit them. I promise you magical things will start to happen. It's Michael Tasner signing off. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. I'll see you next week.